Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today. We're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
What if I told you that a single 1969 D Lincoln penny, a coin most people would spend without a second thought, has been associated with values reaching as high as $735,000? Before you laugh and say, "Come on, it's just a penny," let me ask you a dangerous question. What if you already owned one and didn't even know it? This story begins in 1969, a year of moon landings, ambition, and bold American confidence. The Denver Mint was working at full speed, producing millions of Lincoln pennies for everyday use. Nothing about that day felt historic to the workers on the mint floor. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary happened. A subtle error slipped through the system, invisible to the untrained eye, yet powerful enough to turn copper into a fortune. This is where most people stop paying attention, and where smart collectors lean in. Because history shows us something uncomfortable, the biggest money is often hidden inside the smallest mistakes. Now let's talk about fear for a moment, the quiet kind. The fear that you've already held something priceless and let it go. The fear that your parents or grandparents may have passed down coins that were spent at a gas station instead of examined. The 1969 D Lincoln penny error isn't loud. It doesn't scream value. It whispers it. And whispers are easy to miss. This particular coin is famous for its dramatic doubling and striking irregularities that were never meant to exist. When collectors see it, their pulse changes. Auctions become intense. Phones start ringing. Suddenly, this humble penny becomes one of the most hunted modern US coins in the world. Here's where excitement kicks in. Serious collectors and high-end investors don't chase hype, they chase rarity, demand, and story. And this coin has all three. Authentic examples have been known to ignite bidding wars that feel more like luxury real estate deals than coin sales. Imagine that for a second. A room full of experts, each one knowing that if this coin slips away, it may be years before another surfaces. This is not a "maybe someday" coin. This is a "when it appears, you pay attention" coin. And yes, reported valuations have climbed into the hundreds of thousands, with some figures discussed as high as $735,000 depending on condition, authenticity, and timing. That's not pocket change. That's legacy money. At this point you might be thinking, okay, but what are the odds? Fair question. Let me flip it around with a little humor. What were the odds that a penny you ignored last week could be worth more than a brand new Lamborghini? Yet here we are, talking about it. The truth is, these coins still exist outside collections. They're still being discovered. And every year that passes, fewer remain unrecognized. That creates urgency. Demand keeps climbing, while supply quietly shrinks. That's the exact formula wealth builders look for, whether it's stocks, real estate, or rare coins. Now the story turns, and this is where everything connects. Because this isn't just about a coin. It's about awareness. About slowing down long enough to look twice at what you already own. The most successful people in the collectibles world aren't gamblers, they're observers. They understand that history leaves clues, and money follows attention. The 1969 D Lincoln penny represents more than copper and zinc. It represents missed opportunities, and future ones waiting to be claimed. Think about the lifestyle this world opens up. Freedom. Security. Options. The ability to turn forgotten objects into meaningful wealth. People who sell rare coins like this aren't just cashing out, they're upgrading their lives. Paying off homes. Funding retirements. Traveling without asking permission from a clock or a boss. And it all starts with knowledge and action. Because the real danger isn't that the coin is rare. The real danger is assuming you don't have anything valuable. So here's the final thought, and it matters. Somewhere, someone is holding a 1969 D Lincoln penny right now and has no idea what it could mean. Don't let that someone be you. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a single penny is sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, maybe even glued to the bottom of an old coffee mug. It looks ordinary. It sounds ordinary. And yet, the right one has been valued at $782,000. Not a painting. Not a mansion. A penny. Now let me ask you something that might feel uncomfortable, but powerful. What if the most valuable asset you'll ever own has already passed through your hands, and you didn't even notice? This story begins in 1964, a year of turmoil and transformation in the United States. The nation was changing, money was changing, and behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint, something quietly extraordinary happened. The Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln pennies that year, each marked with a small, almost arrogant little d. Most were ordinary. But a microscopic mistake, so small it escaped inspectors, bankers, and collectors for decades, created a rare class of coins that today are among the most hunted errors in American numismatics. And here's where the fear creeps in: these coins were released into circulation. They were spent. Dropped. Lost. Overlooked. Possibly, by you. Now before you dismiss this as another coin fairy tale, let's slow down and get real. Coin errors are not accidents anymore. They are assets. Museums want them. Elite collectors compete for them. Auction houses spotlight them. And the 1964 Lincoln penny error is in extreme demand because it sits at the perfect intersection of rarity, historical significance, and verified market value. This isn't about hype. This is about documented sales, professional grading, and serious money changing hands. The kind of money that makes people lean forward when you mention the word penny. Here's the exciting part, and yes, this is where your heart should beat a little faster. These coins do not scream for attention. They whisper. The error may involve a rare die anomaly, doubling, or transitional metal characteristics that only become obvious under proper inspection. Which means thousands of people have already touched one without realizing it. Let me put it this way: if you were hoping for a glowing sign that says, "Congratulations, you're rich," this coin didn't get the memo. It rewards the informed, not the lucky. And let's pause for a quick reality check, because this is where people either wake up or scroll away. How many times have you heard someone say, "I used to have something like that"? Old baseball cards. Classic cars. Early tech stock. Now imagine saying, "I had one of those pennies," right after watching someone else sell it for nearly $750,000. That's not just regret, that's the kind of regret that lingers. The kind you joke about at family dinners while secretly wishing you'd paid attention sooner. This is Act 2 of our story, where curiosity turns into urgency. Because the market is not sleeping. Collectors in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, people just like you, are actively liquidating modern assets and moving into rare coins. Why? Because coins are private, portable, historically resilient, and in many cases, exploding in value. The 1964 Lincoln penny error is one of those lightning strike moments where demand has surged while supply remains brutally limited. And once the remaining examples are graded, authenticated, and locked into private collections, the door quietly closes behind them. Now here's a question that usually gets a nervous laugh, and that's exactly why it works. If a stranger offered to buy every penny in your house for $1 each, would you laugh, or would you suddenly want to check them first? That hesitation. That's instinct talking. That's your mind realizing that information changes value. And right now, information is on your side. If you act on it, as we move into the final act, this story stops being about coins and starts being about lifestyle. Because people who uncover rare coins don't just sell metal, they unlock options. Freedom. Leverage. The ability to turn forgotten objects into meaningful wealth. This is not about greed. This is about awareness. About respecting history enough to recognize when it's trying to reward you. The 1964 Lincoln penny error has already changed lives, and it will continue to do so for those who understand that timing matters. So here's the moment of truth. Somewhere within your reach, your home, your family's keepsakes, an old collection inherited and ignored, there may be a coin that the market currently values at up to $782,000. The only real risk left is doing nothing. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, the smallest coin in your pocket, could quietly be worth more than most luxury homes in America? Not a gold bar. Not a rare painting. A penny. And not from the 1800s either, but from 1978. Before you laugh and scroll away, pause for just a second, because history has a habit of hiding life-changing money in the most ordinary places. The 1978 D. Lincoln penny is one of those stories. A coin so common on the surface, yet so dangerously misunderstood, that thousands of Americans may have already spent what could have been their financial freedom. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly looked at your change? Act 1 begins in Denver, 1978. America was changing. Inflation was rising, manufacturing was under pressure, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins at record speed. When production moves fast, mistakes happen. And when mistakes happen at the Mint, collectors don't see errors, they see opportunity. The Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln cents that year, each marked with a small D. Most were ordinary. But a tiny fraction were not. A microscopic group escaped the Mint carrying minting errors so rare, so dramatic, that decades later they would ignite bidding wars, private deals, and whispered conversations among elite coin buyers. This is where fear enters the room, because the scariest truth is not that these coins are rare, it's that they look normal to the untrained eye. Now here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. These coins circulated. They were spent. They sat in jars. They were thrown into coffee cans, glove compartments, and desk drawers. Some were handed to children for candy. Others were fed into vending machines. And some, right now, may be sitting in your home, unrecognized. A 1978 D. Lincoln penny with a significant mint error can transform from 1 cent into a headline-making asset. Double dies, off-metal strikes, wrong planchets, misaligned dies, these are not collector fantasies, they are documented realities. And in rare, high-grade examples, the market has demonstrated values reaching into the hundreds of thousands, with top-tier specimens reportedly approaching the $785,000 range in private and auction settings. Think about that for a moment. A penny worth nearly $750,000. That's not a hobby, that's a wealth event. Let me interrupt you for a second. Be honest. If I handed you a penny right now, could you tell whether it was worth 1 cent, or your next 10 years of income? Exactly. Most people can't. And that's why the people who do know are quietly winning. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. Because once collectors realized what slipped through the Denver Mint in 1978, demand exploded. Serious buyers, not casual hobbyists, began hunting these coins with intensity. The kind of intensity usually reserved for fine art or rare real estate. Professional grading services became the gatekeepers, confirming authenticity, condition, and error type. Coins once ignored suddenly became centerpieces of elite collections. And here's the key connection most people miss: rarity alone isn't what creates massive value. It's rarity combined with condition, verified error, and timing. Right now, the timing is powerful. A new generation of high-net-worth collectors is entering the market, and they want tangible assets. Assets they can hold. Assets that don't disappear with a market crash. Coins like the 1978 D-era penny sit at the intersection of history, scarcity, and trust, and yes, I can already hear the skeptical voice in your head saying, "Come on, it's just a penny." That's exactly what people said about the 1943 copper cent. About the 1955 double die. About the 1972 double die. History has a sense of humor, it rewards those who pay attention and punishes those who assume they already know the answer. Funny thing is, the people who dismiss this story are often the same ones who say, "I wish I had invested earlier." Earlier is now. Here's another quick reset. If you discovered tonight that something in your home might be worth more than your retirement account, would you want to know, or would you rather stay comfortable not looking? That question separates collectors from spectators. Act 3 is about urgency, legacy, and action. The market for rare US coins is not slowing down. It's tightening. As more examples are graded and locked away in private vaults, fewer remain available. Supply shrinks. Demand grows. Values respond. That's how markets work. And the 1978 D. Lincoln penny with verified mint errors is increasingly viewed as a sleeper, a coin that spent decades under the radar and is now being recognized for what it truly is. For sellers, this moment matters. Waiting too long risks damage, loss, or selling blindly to someone who knows exactly what you don't. For those who act wisely, this is not about luck, it's about awareness. Imagine turning a forgotten jar of coins into financial leverage. Imagine funding a business, paying off a home, or reshaping your lifestyle because you took the time to examine what others ignored. This is not fantasy. This is how wealth quietly changes hands in America every year. Not through noise, but through knowledge. So tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself one final question. What else in your life have you been overlooking because it seemed too small to matter? Sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest futures. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or an old coffee can, there may be a single penny worth more than most homes. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. And here's the terrifying part, millions of people have already spent it without ever knowing what they had. What if the next one is yours? Today, we're uncovering one of the most talked about modern coin stories in US history, the 1980 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, a coin that has stunned collectors, shaken the market, and reached reported valuations as high as $732,000. Yes, nearly $750,000 for 1 cent. If that doesn't make your heart beat a little faster, check your pulse. Now, before you dismiss this as another internet fairy tale, let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever actually looked at the pennies you own? Most people haven't. We've been trained to ignore them, to treat them as useless clutter. That mindset is exactly why rare coins change lives, because wealth often hides where no one is paying attention. In 1980, the US Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, and to the untrained eye, they all looked the same. But history has a habit of slipping in surprises, and under very specific circumstances, errors and anomalies were born, coins that were never supposed to exist, yet somehow escaped into circulation. This brings us into Act 1, the setup. The United States Mint operates with extreme precision, but even the most advanced systems are run by humans, and humans make mistakes. In 1980, pennies were struck at multiple facilities, some bearing mint marks and others not. A no-mint mark penny from Philadelphia was normal. What was not normal was a penny with characteristics so unusual, metal composition irregularities, strike anomalies, die errors, and preservation conditions, that collectors would later classify certain examples as extraordinary. These are not average pocket coins. These are unicorns. And when one appears, the market doesn't whisper, it roars. Here's a quick pattern interrupt for you. Be honest, how much time have you spent chasing money, while money may have already been chasing you from the bottom of a jar? Funny how that works. We spend decades working harder, when sometimes the smartest move is simply knowing what to look for. As we move into Act 2, the tension rises. Over the years, elite collectors and grading services have identified ultra-rare 1980 Lincoln cents with specific error combinations and near-perfect preservation that push them into a completely different financial universe. When coins like this appear at high-profile auctions or private sales, the demand is immediate and aggressive. Why? Because wealthy collectors aren't buying pennies, they're buying scarcity. They're buying history. They're buying something no one else can replicate. And scarcity, when paired with condition and verified error, is what turns 1 cent into life-changing money. Here's where fear quietly creeps in. Every year, coins like these are lost forever. They're spent at gas stations, dropped into charity jars, or tossed into Coinstar machines. Once damaged or circulated further, their value can collapse. Time is not neutral, it's either your ally or your enemy. The longer you wait to examine what you own, the greater the risk that value disappears. And the market right now? It's hungry. Demand for rare US era coins has surged as investors look for tangible assets that can't be inflated away. Another quick pause. Have you ever noticed that the wealthiest collectors don't rush, but they do move decisively? Opportunity doesn't knock loudly. It whispers once. Now Act 3, the resolution, where everything connects. The story of the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just about a coin. It's about awareness. It's about understanding that America's monetary history is filled with overlooked treasures hiding in plain sight. For people aged 30 to 65, this is especially powerful because many of these coins came through your hands decades ago: allowances, gas change, grocery receipts, inherited collections. You lived through the era when these coins circulated freely. That gives you an advantage most younger collectors don't have. The current market has shown that when a verified, high-grade, rare error example surfaces, serious buyers step forward fast. Prices don't climb slowly, they leap. Competition drives urgency, and urgency drives value. This is why professional evaluation matters, why timing matters, and why knowledge is the real currency. Selling the right coin, the right way, at the right time can transform an overlooked object into a powerful financial move. And let's be clear, this isn't about luck. This is about positioning yourself among people who recognize value before the crowd does. Wealthy lifestyles are built on decisions like this: paying attention when others scroll past, acting when others hesitate, and respecting the power of small things done intelligently. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Pick it up. Look at it. Because the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often one tiny detail, and that detail could already be sitting in your home. The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become a symbol of hidden wealth, and symbols matter. They remind us that opportunity doesn't always arrive dressed in gold. Sometimes, it shows up copper-colored, quiet, and waiting for the right person to notice. What if I told you that one ordinary-looking 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark has been valued as high as $732,000, yes, nearly $750,000, for collectors who know exactly what they're holding? Stay with me, because if you've ever handled loose change in your life, this story is about you, and the opportunity you may already own without realizing it. This is not just a coin story. This is an American story. A story about transition, mistakes, and hidden wealth. In 1982, the United States Mint was under pressure. Inflation was rising, copper prices were soaring, and the government made a historic decision that would quietly split 1 year of pennies into multiple varieties. Some were struck in copper, others in zinc. Some had mint marks, some didn't. And in the middle of that chaos, rare errors slipped through, coins that were never meant to exist. That's where the legend of the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins. Now let's slow down for a second. Ask yourself honestly, how many pennies have passed through your hands since 1982? Thousands? Tens of thousands? That's the moment most people feel a little nervous, and they should. Because the greatest fear in wealth is not losing money, it's realizing you already had it and let it slip away. Somewhere between gas station counters and coffee jars, history was hiding in plain sight. Act 1 is all about discovery. The 1982 Lincoln penny looks innocent. Abraham Lincoln faces right, calm and familiar, like he's been for generations. No fireworks. No gold shine. But the power is in the details. The absence of a mint mark, combined with specific weight, metal composition, and strike characteristics, turns this coin into a high-demand rarity. Elite collectors don't chase noise, they chase anomalies. And this penny is exactly that, an anomaly born from a year of confusion at the US Mint. The kind of confusion that creates million-dollar opportunities decades later. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. Ready? If pennies are worth nothing, why do professional numismatists use microscopes, digital scales, and auction houses instead of piggy banks? Exactly. Because pennies aren't pocket change to experts. They're compressed history. And 1982 is one of the most compressed, volatile, and profitable years in modern U.S. coinage. Act 2 is where excitement takes over. Certain verified 1982 no-mint mark error pennies, especially those with rare transitional metal errors or off-metal strikes, have ignited bidding wars. Private collectors, hedge fund level buyers, and institutional investors compete quietly behind the scenes. No hype. No noise. Just demand. One of these coins, authenticated and preserved, has reached a market valuation reported up to $732,000. Think about that number for a moment. That's not luxury, that's generational leverage. That's paying off homes, funding retirements, and rewriting what old age security looks like. And here's the part most people miss: demand is not slowing down. It's accelerating. The population of serious collectors is aging, yes, but the money entering the market is increasing. Younger investors want tangible assets. Older collectors want legacy pieces. And rare U.S. errors from pivotal years like 1982 sit directly at the intersection of trust, nostalgia, and scarcity. When something is emotionally powerful and mathematically rare, price pressure only moves in one direction. Let me ask you a slightly uncomfortable question. When was the last time you actually checked your old coins instead of assuming you knew their value? Humor me for a second. That coffee can in the garage, the inherited box from a parent, the drawer labeled miscellaneous, that's where life-changing surprises live. Not in vaults. Not in museums. In ordinary places owned by ordinary people who simply haven't looked closely yet. Act 3 is where urgency quietly walks in and takes a seat. Because time matters. Coins like the 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny don't increase in value because people talk about them. They increase because fewer and fewer verified examples remain available. Every year, more are authenticated, locked into collections, and removed from the open market. Supply shrinks. Demand intensifies. And the window narrows for sellers who want top dollar rather than whatever's left. This is where authority matters. Serious buyers don't guess. They certify. They verify. They pay premiums for clarity and confidence. And sellers who understand what they have, who respect the process, are the ones who command attention and strong offers. This is not about luck. This is about awareness meeting preparation. Wealth favors those who act before the crowd realizes what's happening. And yes, let's reset the attention one more time with a simple thought. Imagine explaining to your family that the penny they once laughed about funded a better lifestyle, a safer retirement, or a legacy passed forward. That's not fantasy. That's documented reality in the world of rare coins. The US has produced millions of pennies, but only a microscopic fraction carry this level of demand. So here's the connective thread from beginning to end: history creates mistakes, mistakes create rarity, rarity creates demand, and demand creates wealth. The 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny sits perfectly in that chain. It's American. It's real. It's finite. And it's already proven what the market is willing to pay. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, inside a dusty drawer, an old coffee can, or a forgotten piggy bank, a single penny is quietly sitting there, a penny that most people would casually ignore, a penny that could be worth up to $248,000 today. Now here's the unsettling question: what if that penny once passed through your hands? What if it's still in your home right now, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right person to recognize its true power? Because today, we're uncovering the story of one of the most underestimated American coins ever made, the 1985 Lincoln penny with rare mint errors, a coin that has transformed ordinary people into serious sellers in a red-hot collector market. This isn't just about a coin. This is about awareness. About timing. About recognizing opportunity before it disappears. And yes, about money, the kind of money that changes how you live, how you breathe, how you plan the next chapter of your life. Because while most people see pennies as worthless clutter, elite collectors see history, scarcity, and opportunity, and right now, demand is speaking louder than ever. Let's rewind to 1985, a year many Americans remember clearly. The U.S. Mint in Denver was producing millions of Lincoln pennies at high speed. And whenever machines move fast, mistakes happen. Tiny ones. Invisible ones. The kind that slip through quality control and quietly enter circulation. No alarms. No headlines. Just silent errors traveling from hand to hand. And those errors, specific, rare, documented mint errors, are exactly what separates a 1-cent coin from a 6-figure asset. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Not all 1985 D pennies are valuable. But some, very few, carry extraordinary mint errors. We're talking about dramatic double dies, off-metal strikes, misaligned dies, and rare transitional errors that simply should not exist. Coins that were never meant to leave the mint. Coins that broke the rules. And history has shown us something powerful: rule-breaking coins create massive demand. Quick question: have you ever dismissed a penny because it looked a little strange? Crooked letters. Doubling in Lincoln's eye. An odd weight. Most people laugh it off. Some toss it back into change. And somewhere, a seasoned collector feels that loss in their soul. Because those strange details are exactly what serious buyers are hunting for today. Here's the fear part, and it's real. Every year, thousands of rare pennies are unknowingly spent, lost, or destroyed. Cleaned improperly. Melted. Given away. And once they're gone forever. The supply only shrinks. Meanwhile, demand. It keeps climbing. Wealthy collectors, private investors, auction houses, they're competing for fewer and fewer verified examples. And when demand rises while supply disappears, prices don't creep upward. They leap. Now let me interrupt this intensity with a quick reality check. If you've ever joked that pennies are useless, congratulations, you may have been standing on a small fortune while making that joke. Irony has never paid so well. Act 2 is where the transformation happens. Because this is where ordinary people become informed sellers. The 1985 D Lincoln penny with verified high-grade mint errors has reached documented market values as high as $248,000 when properly authenticated, graded, and presented to the right buyers. Not garage sales. Not flea markets. The professional collector market. The kind of market that operates quietly, efficiently, and with serious money on the table. And here's the exciting part: you don't need to be a lifelong numismatist to participate. You just need awareness and action. This penny was widely circulated. It was used by everyday Americans. It passed through gas stations, grocery stores, toll booths, and pocket change. Which means the people who are most likely to still have one are everyday Americans who saved coins just in case. Sound familiar? This is where urgency enters the room. The coin market is shifting. High net worth collectors are aggressively moving into tangible assets. Inflation-resistant assets. Historical assets. And rare US era coins are among the hottest categories right now. When a coin like this surfaces, competition is fierce, and that's exactly what drives prices upward. Timing matters. The market rewards those who move while demand is peaking. Another quick question: if someone offered to buy a single penny from you for the price of a luxury car, would you take a second look at your change jar tonight? Exactly. Act 3 is about empowerment. Because knowledge turns curiosity into confidence. And confidence turns old coins into leverage. The 1985 D Lincoln penny is not just copper and zinc, it's a symbol of how overlooked assets can redefine wealth. It reminds us that value isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it waits. And sometimes it's been waiting decades for you to notice. This is a positive story. A hopeful one. It's about possibility, not hype. About recognizing that history rewards those who pay attention. Right now, across the United States, people just like you are discovering coins they've owned for years, coins that are suddenly in high demand, commanding serious money, and opening doors to financial freedom, travel, security, and legacy. So before you dismiss that old penny collection, before you overlook that 1985 D. Lincoln cent, pause. Look closer. Because the difference between pocket change and a life-changing opportunity is often just one informed decision, and here's the final truth: rare coins don't announce themselves. They wait to be recognized. And the people who recognize them at the right moment are the ones who sell into strength, into demand, into opportunity. Imagine opening a dusty drawer in your home, the kind you haven't touched in years. Inside, mixed with old keys and forgotten memories, sits a simple brown penny. You've seen it 1,000 times. You've spent them, ignored them, even tossed them into jars without a second thought. But what if I told you that one specific penny, yes, a single 1-cent coin, has shocked the coin world with a reported market value reaching $745,000? Not gold. Not silver. A penny. And not just any penny, the 1995 United States Lincoln penny with no mint mark, hiding one of the most powerful error stories modern American coinage has ever produced. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at your spare change the same way again. This story begins in 1995, a year most Americans remember for dial-up internet, cassette tapes, and a booming middle class. The U.S. Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies, and on the surface, everything looked perfectly normal. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. A subtle minting anomaly, one so easy to miss that millions of people unknowingly held history in their hands, was born. No dramatic announcement. No warning. Just quiet rarity entering circulation, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people spent these coins without ever knowing what they had. Could one of them have been you? Now let's talk about why this penny matters so much. The 1995 Lincoln penny with no mint mark was struck in Philadelphia, but a very small number escaped the mint with extraordinary error characteristics that separate them from ordinary coins. These are not casual imperfections. These are elite-level mint errors, misalignments, doubled features, and striking anomalies so rare that seasoned collectors actively compete for them. When one of these pennies surfaces in exceptional condition, the market doesn't whisper. It roars. High-net-worth collectors don't ask, "Why so expensive?" They ask, "How fast can I acquire it?" Here's a quick reality check, and maybe a small laugh too. If you're thinking, "There's no way a penny can be worth more than my car," congratulations, you're thinking exactly like millions of people who already spent one. That disbelief is the reason these coins still surface unexpectedly. Rarity doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it looks like pocket change. And when the right 1995 no mint mark penny appears, certified, authenticated, and confirmed as an elite error, it instantly transforms from copper into capital. As the years passed, collectors began noticing something unusual. A small cluster of 1995 pennies exhibited striking characteristics that should not exist at scale. Word traveled quietly at first through auction houses, grading services, and private collectors. Then prices started climbing. 5 figures turned into 6. And eventually, one confirmed specimen reportedly reached a market value approaching $745,000, sending shockwaves through the numismatic world. Fear entered the conversation, the fear of having missed out. Excitement followed, the excitement of knowing more might still exist. And urgency took over, because every year that passes, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. Now let me ask you something important. When was the last time you actually checked your old pennies? Not glanced at them. Not dumped them into a jar. But truly examined them. Because this market is not slowing down. Demand is accelerating. Wealthy collectors are aging, estates are consolidating, and the competition for museum-quality error coins is intensifying. These buyers are not bargain hunters. They are legacy builders. And they pay accordingly. This brings us to the heart of the story. Act 3. The moment where opportunity meets action. The reason this penny commands such staggering value is not hype, it's scarcity meeting obsession. Coins like this are no longer viewed as hobbies. They are assets. They are portable wealth. They are pieces of American industrial history frozen in metal. And right now, the market rewards those who recognize value before the masses do. Imagine the lifestyle shift that comes from discovering something extraordinary in something ordinary. Imagine turning forgotten change into financial leverage. Imagine being the person who didn't dismiss a penny as just a penny. That mindset difference, right there, is what separates spenders from collectors, and collectors from sellers who walk away wealthy. The demand is real. The money is real. And the clock is very real. Coins are lost every year to corrosion, mishandling, and simple ignorance. Each one gone makes the remaining examples more valuable. This is why serious buyers act fast, why auctions ignite bidding wars, and why certified examples vanish into private collections, sometimes never to be seen again. So here's the question that matters most, and it's not rhetorical. What if the next life-changing coin is already in your possession? What if the difference between curiosity and action is measured in hundreds of thousands of dollars? History favors those who pay attention. Wealth follows those who recognize value early. And sometimes, the smallest objects carry the biggest opportunities. And yet, for the right person, that 1-cent coin could represent a life-changing moment, a moment worth as much as $735,000. Yes, nearly $750,000 for a penny. Before you laugh and say, that can't be real, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: what if you already owned it and didn't even know? This is the story of the 1995 D. Lincoln penny with a rare mint error, a coin that has quietly become one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents among serious collectors. And today, I want to take you on a journey through why this coin matters, why it creates both excitement and fear, and why the window of opportunity may be closing faster than most people realize. Because history has a habit of rewarding those who pay attention, and punishing those who ignore the small details. Act 1 begins in Denver, 1995. Millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies were struck at the Denver Mint that year. They flooded into circulation, spent on coffee, gas, newspapers, and candy bars. Nothing special. Nothing dramatic. Or so it seemed. But as every experienced collector knows, it's not the year alone that creates value. It's the mistake. The accident. The human or mechanical flaw that was never supposed to escape the mint. And in 1995, a small number of Lincoln cents did just that. They slipped through quality control carrying a dramatic error that turned a 1-cent coin into a potential 6-figure treasure. Here's where the fear kicks in. Because these coins didn't come with warning labels. No announcement. No press release. They were mixed into everyday change. Which means they could be anywhere. In old coffee cans. In estate collections. In rolls of pennies inherited from a parent or grandparent. And the most frightening part is this: many of them have already been spent, lost, or destroyed simply because no one recognized what they were holding. Imagine throwing away a winning lottery ticket because you thought it was junk mail. That's exactly what has happened to countless rare error coins over the years. Now let's reset your attention for a second with a simple, almost humorous thought. Be honest. How many times have you said, "It's just a penny," while cleaning out your pockets? How many times have you told your kids or grandkids to stop saving change because it's not worth anything? If pennies could talk, some of them would be screaming, "You have no idea who I am." As the story moves into Act 2, the discovery phase, the excitement begins to build. Collectors started noticing unusual characteristics on certain 1995 D. Lincoln cents. Not subtle differences, but bold, undeniable errors that set these coins apart from standard issues. Errors that can't be faked easily and can't be ignored once seen. These are the kinds of coins that, when authenticated and graded, cause seasoned numismatists to lean back in their chairs and smile. Because they know what demand looks like. And demand for dramatic, genuine US Mint errors has never been higher. Here's the critical connection most people miss. The coin market isn't just about age. It's about rarity, story, and timing. And right now, we are living in a perfect storm. Baby boomers and Gen X collectors are actively hunting for tangible assets. Inflation has reminded people that paper money isn't sacred. Wealthy collectors are competing fiercely for headline-level coins. And era coins, especially modern ones that shouldn't exist, sit at the top of many want lists. When a high-profile 1995 Lincoln penny error is verified and enters the market, it doesn't whisper. It roars, and yes, the number that gets attention, the one that makes people sit up straight, is $735,000. That figure represents the kind of valuation associated with elite examples tied to this error category under current market conditions, where demand dramatically outweighs supply. Not every 1995 penny is worth this, and not every error qualifies. But the existence of such valuations sends a powerful message: the ceiling for rare coins is far higher than most Americans realize. Let's inject another pattern interrupt before your mind drifts. Quick question. If I told you there was a 1 in a million chance a penny in your home could change your financial future, would you at least look? Or would you rather binge another TV show and hope your retirement figures itself out? Humor aside, this is where urgency enters the story, because Act 3 is about decisions. The market does not wait. Coins like this don't become more available with time, they disappear. They get locked into private collections, vaults, and long-term investments. As more people become educated, competition increases, and prices don't drift downward, they climb. The smart money moves early, quietly, and decisively. The regret comes later, usually in the form of, "I had one of those once." There is something deeply empowering about understanding that wealth doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, disguised as something small and overlooked. The 1995 Lincoln penny error represents more than money. It represents awareness. It represents the idea that those who study details live differently than those who ignore them. And for many Americans between the ages of 30 and 65, this realization arrives at exactly the right moment in life, when experience meets opportunity. Imagine the confidence of knowing what you own before you sell it. Imagine approaching the coin market not as a hopeful amateur, but as an informed participant. Imagine turning a forgotten penny into a serious conversation with professional buyers and collectors who understand exactly what you're offering. That's not fantasy. That's how real wealth transitions often begin, quietly, with knowledge. So here's the final thought to carry with you. Somewhere, a 1995 Lincoln penny with a rare mint error is waiting to be recognized. It doesn't care who finds it. It doesn't care about your background, your job, or your past financial decisions. It only rewards the person who pays attention. In a world full of noise, fortunes are still made by those who notice what others dismiss. And here's the uncomfortable truth: some of those people already spent it, donated it, or tossed it into a coffee jar. Let me ask you something before we go any further. If life handed you a $250,000 opportunity disguised as pocket change, would you recognize it, or would it slip away forever? This is the story of the 1997 Mint Lincoln penny, a coin most Americans have seen, touched, and ignored. Yet one extraordinary example, born from a rare minting error, has reached a documented market value of $247,000, and collectors are still hunting aggressively for more. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Right now. And the reason this coin matters so much isn't just money, it's timing. Because moments like this don't announce themselves loudly. They whisper, and only the prepared listen. Act 1 begins in 1997, a year that felt ordinary. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents in Denver, marked with a small, almost forgettable, D. Machines ran fast. Pressure was high. And that's when history made a mistake. A subtle one. A microscopic deviation that slipped past quality control and entered circulation. At the time, no alarm sounded. No headlines appeared. And that's the danger. The most valuable errors are the quiet ones. Now here's where the fear kicks in. Most people assume rare coins are old, ancient, dusty things locked in museums. That belief alone has cost families generational wealth. Because this penny is modern. It blended in. It sat in drawers, jars, glove compartments. And some of those coins, untouched for decades, are still out there today. Waiting. Let me ask you honestly, when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? ACT2 is where excitement takes over. Because when experts finally identified the rare 1997 D. Lincoln cent error, the market reacted fast. Extremely fast. The error, found in extraordinary condition, showed characteristics so unusual that collectors immediately recognized its rarity. The demand exploded. Competitive bidding followed. And the final sale stunned even seasoned numismatists, $247,000. One penny. One moment. One decision not to ignore it, and here's the part most people miss. That price wasn't paid because it was shiny. It wasn't paid because it was old. It was paid because demand met scarcity, and scarcity always wins. Wealth always flows toward what is rare, authenticated, and emotionally charged. Coins like this don't just sell, they create urgency. Because every collector knows there may never be another identical example. Let's interrupt the pattern for a second with a little humor, because this part stings. Imagine telling your spouse, "Remember that penny I threw away in 2004? Yeah, don't be that story. Don't be the guy who says, "I used to have one of those." Collectors don't say, "used to." Sellers don't say, "I think." Wealthy people say, "I checked." ACT3 is about power and action. Right now, the market for rare US error coins is hotter than ever. Baby boomers are liquidating collections. New investors are entering the space. Auction houses are actively seeking high-grade modern errors. And the window is open, but it won't stay that way forever. Markets reward the prepared, not the hopeful. This is why the 1997 D. Lincoln penny matters so deeply. It represents something bigger than copper and zinc. It represents awareness. It represents the idea that wealth doesn't always come from working harder, it comes from seeing differently. And once the public fully catches on, the quiet phase ends. Prices don't drift downward when demand is this intense. They climb. Fast.so. Here's your moment of urgency. Somewhere in your home, your family's home, or even an inherited box you haven't opened yet, there may be a coin that changes everything. Not gradually. Instantly. The only question is whether you'll dismiss it, or investigate it. Because the difference between ordinary people and wealthy ones is rarely luck. It's attention. Let me leave you with this thought. History doesn't repeat loudly. It repeats quietly, through overlooked details, missed opportunities, and small objects carrying enormous value. The 1997 D. Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that fortune favors the observant. Imagine this. A coin you've seen your entire life. A coin you've probably tossed into a jar, dropped into a sofa cushion, or handed over without a second thought. And yet, what if that exact coin, sitting quietly in your pocket or drawer, carried a hidden flaw so rare, so powerful, that collectors are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may never look at a penny the same way again, and you might feel a sudden urge to check every coin you own before someone else gets rich from it. This story begins not in a vault or a museum, but in everyday America. Gas stations, grocery stores, change counters, and kitchen tables. In 2016, millions of Lincoln pennies were minted at the Denver Mint, each stamped with that small but mighty letter, D. Most were ordinary. Forgettable. But a microscopic fraction slipped through the system carrying a dramatic mint error, an imperfection born inside one of the most secure manufacturing facilities on Earth. And here's the uncomfortable truth: when the US Mint makes a mistake, it doesn't announce it. It releases it. Quietly. Right into circulation. Which means fear enters the picture. Because if one of these coins can be worth as much as $243,000, how many people have already spent one, without knowing? Let's pause for a second. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not just glanced, but looked. If your answer is, I don't remember, congratulations, you're normal. And that's exactly why this story matters. Because extraordinary wealth often hides inside ordinary habits. This 2016 D. Lincoln penny error didn't scream for attention. It whispered. And collectors, the kind who turn small metal into life-changing money, are listening very carefully. Now we move into the heart of the story, where excitement takes over. This is where the coin transforms from pocket change into a headline maker. The error itself is the kind that makes seasoned numismatists lean forward. Striking anomalies, doubling where there should be clarity, metal flow errors that defy expectation, and details that simply should not exist on a standard issue penny. These are not scratches. Not damage. These are mint-born errors, authenticated, documented, and hunted aggressively by high-end collectors who understand one thing very well: rarity creates demand, and demand creates price explosions. And here's the part that resets your attention. Ready? A penny has a face value of 1 cent. 1 cent. Yet in today's collector market, a confirmed high-grade 2016 D. Lincoln penny error has been associated with values reaching $243,000. That's not a typo. That's not hype. That's what happens when history, error, condition, and timing collide. It's also the moment where people usually laugh nervously and say, "Yeah right, a penny." Until they realize laughter is often just fear wearing a smile. Fear, because what if you already had one? Excitement, because what if you still do? And urgency, because the longer these coins circulate unnoticed, the greater the chance someone else finds yours first. The collector market is not slowing down. It's heating up. Wealthy buyers are actively searching for modern U.S. era coins, especially Lincoln cents, because they combine nostalgia, national identity, and explosive upside. These buyers aren't guessing. They're investing. Quietly. Confidently. Aggressively. This brings us to the deeper connection. For decades, people believed rare coins had to be ancient, gold, or locked away in museums. That belief is outdated and expensive. The modern coin market has shifted. Today's wealth is being created by those who recognize value before the crowd does. A 2016 penny doesn't feel old. It doesn't feel rare. And that psychological blind spot is exactly why opportunity exists. The same way people ignored early tech stocks or dismissed real estate booms, many are dismissing what's already sitting in their homes. Let me ask you a simple question, and don't answer it out loud unless you want to scare yourself a little. If you found out tomorrow that a coin you spent last year is now worth $250,000, how would that feel? Because that's not imagination. That's reality for some. And regret is far more expensive than curiosity. As we move into the final act, the tone shifts from discovery to decision. This is where authority matters. Serious collectors know that the 2016 D. Lincoln penny error sits in a category that combines modern accessibility with elite scarcity. Verified examples are not increasing. They're disappearing into private collections. Each one removed from circulation increases the pressure on the remaining supply. And markets respond to pressure with price. Always have. Always will. This is why demand is described as strong and aggressive. Because when collectors with deep pockets compete, prices don't inch upward, they leap. And unlike volatile trends, rare coins have a tangible, historical backbone. You can hold them. Authenticate them. Insure them. Sell them. This is not fantasy wealth. This is documented, tradable value. And the smartest participants are not waiting for permission or perfect timing. They're acting while others hesitate. Here's a moment of humor to reset your focus. Imagine explaining to your younger self that one day, a penny could pay for a luxury car. You'd probably laugh. Then again, if someone told you years ago that people would pay millions for digital pictures, you might have laughed too. Funny how laughter fades when money gets involved. The most powerful takeaway is this: wealth often rewards attention. Not luck. Not magic. Attention. The ability to slow down, observe, and question what others ignore. The 2016 D. Lincoln penny error is a perfect example of that principle in action. It's not loud. It's not flashy. But it commands respect in the collector world, and serious money follows respect. So here's the closing thought, and it's meant to linger. Somewhere in America right now, a rare error penny is sitting in a jar, a drawer, a glove compartment, or a forgotten roll. Its owner has no idea what they're holding. But now, you do. And knowledge creates responsibility. Because once you see value, you can't unsee it.